to the One Nation of Gamers GEICO Qualifier number 3 finals. This is for the North American server. We're here with the 4 finalists, and today we're going to determine who's going to move on to the feature tournament to potentially win a trip to PAX. So I'm here with Hotform HS. How you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, I look forward to these games. Always the people that make it through the open bracket until the final rounds of these qualifiers are really good players. They have lineups that have performed in 8 series in a row to get here, so I think we're going to have some pretty awesome games today.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see how the lineups kind of change each open qualifier. The meta really does shift every few days. Seeing classes like especially quite a few druids tonight. We even see a priest going to come up in our first match from VX14. Tonight we have quite a few new names. This first match might have some people you haven't heard of before. PP Cookie and VX14. You know anything about either of these guys?
No, I've never seen either of them. I've never played against either of them either. So it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, you're right about the priest. Priest is very unusual in tournament lineups these days, so I'm really excited to see what VX's priest is actually looking like in these games, because there's a lot of different ways you can build a priest.
Yeah, no warrior from him, no warlock from him, whereas PP Cookie kind of has the standard lineup. Yeah. So VX14 actually, with that priest lineup, he beat Ari and Leadpaint. Leadpaint, who made the ESL finals, so he's beaten quite a few really proven open players. He self-proclaims his Druid and Hunter decks are net decks, but the Priest is his own creation, so we're gonna have to see what that is all about. But in game 1, looks like we're gonna have Warrior versus Druid. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
So, I mean, originally when Patron Warrior was first coming out, I gave a big advantage to the Warrior in this match, because if you get the early Patron, it just feels like the Druid can't really recover. But a lot of Druids have just started teching in so much weapon removal now that it feels like they have a much better chance in this match. And it's almost siding favorably towards the Druid in some cases, so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I've definitely heard kind of mixed opinions on this, and it definitely kind of goes back to the list that they're running, where that weapon removal comes in really huge, and sometimes you can just get run over by patrons. Not an exciting start from the Druid is a big thing here. No wild growth, and or was there wild growth? I suppose there was a wild growth. We actually had a bit of a spectator issue. He coined out the wild growth into the shades, so wild growth but no innervate.
Is that true? Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, the coin has magically disappeared, so it was a coin of the wild growth.
So his hand's actually not bad then.
Yeah, but still a little bit of just kind of clunkiness. Doesn't have many minions to follow up this shade. And PB Cookie actually just had to go face with the Fiery War Axe. Pretty common that happens.
The shade in this match is one of the most important creatures to have as the Druid, because all the other early creatures you play end up dying to weapons. So especially when they're setting up their Deathbite for patrons, they're just happy to kill something that you've played, like a Sludge Belcher. But the shade can't be attacked, so you get to save it and wait for later.
Yeah, it also threatens the patrons later on, and there's really nothing the warrior can do about it, so you can't go for kind of the softer patron turns where you go for 2 patrons. You really have to go all in on the 4 patron, and even then when your opponent has a shade out and you go for the Inner Rage Patron Whirlwind combo, you're very susceptible to something like Wrath and a Swipe.
But Hippie Cookie is playing the double Unstable Ghoul variant of the deck. I see a lot of people have started teching in the Unstable Ghouls, but many just choose one, and it's going to be a little bit dead in his hand in this match until he finds something to actually play it to synergize with an Acolyte or a Patron.
Yeah, I feel like the Warrior might have been in a bit more trouble had the Druid curved out a lot better this game, but we're probably just going to see a swipe on the No Mission Minter here just to keep the warrior board contained, set up a hero power kill on the unstable ghoul later, but you can't be feeling great about that if you're VX14.
Yeah. Doesn't even kill the ghoul. He wants to Emperor next turn, so he knows the ghoul will still be on the board. I like not attacking it, though.
Yeah, attacking it just really opens you up again to the weapons, especially, you know, as we see here, just a Deathbite attack, which then puts you in an even worse spot to Emperor. But Emperor is definitely one of the cards that if you had a bit of a slower start, it can kind of cheat you back into the game. It's going to get him 5 mana worth of utility here, and especially on the combo pieces, is really nice.
And Pippy Cookie's hand just needs a patron. He's got everything there. He's got a ghoul on board, Inner Rage, Deathbite, but it's all just utility cards right now.
Yep. So, might actually struggle here despite the Druid having a really slow start. The Shade has been growing this whole time and could threaten some of these minions eventually.
It seems like he's thinking about the Emperor, but what do you think he's thinking about? It seems like a pretty good...
I'm not sure. Okay, it looks like he was just thinking about the attack, playing around patrons. So, really imagining something coming out of his opponent like Patron, Inner Rage, Execute, which would put him in a really rough spot. And 2 of those cards are in PP Cookie's hand. So, while the attack doesn't feel great revealing your Shade, I do kind of like it. Playing a little safe, knowing he has a lot of gas in his hand with the Dr. Boom Ancient Lore.
Yeah. He really wants to just push face damage now, but probably Cookie will remove all this stuff from the board here with like a Deathbite trade and, I don't know, Slam maybe? You don't really need to... maybe you do need to Execute.
Yeah, I think if you remove the board here, you actually have to Execute or Inner Rage. Kind of pick your poison there. And it looks like he's going to go with Inner Rage and the Deathbite.
Yeah, I kind of like that better. The Execute is really good in the Druid match because you want to like kill a large creature and gain tempo with it.
Yeah, this is a really important decision from PP Cookie because with the Doctor Boom potentially coming out, just going to hit the board. The Deathbite plus Execute answers it perfectly and really keeps him in this game where otherwise, you know, he'd be really far behind with no way to deal with a 7/7.
A Battle Rage would have been amazing this turn.
Yeah. Battle Rage, one of those cards that really just kind of keeps you having enough stuff because you're basically answering all of the Druid threats inefficiently. Like last turn we saw, you know, Inner Rage have to be used along with the minions he's playing. All the minions the Patron deck plays are actually pretty weak. So really need to supplement them with cards like Execute and Slam.
Yeah, for sure. So he played the Armor Smith over the Frothing here, and he could have curved on the Frothing a little better and put up some damage, but...
Really rough bombs for him.
Yeah.
Face damage, really irrelevant right now, so he would have loved those to get a face, maybe go to the Armor Smith or Acolyte for 1 damage or 2, but instead he kind of got the worst bombs in that regard. He is piecing together a lot of damage in this hand with the Frothing Charge combo, but I don't think it's quite there yet, and I think the Druid could potentially outlast him even.
So, it's pretty off-curve this turn. Yeah, I guess you just Ancient Allure. 15 HP does not feel very comfortable, but you saw him use up the Deathbite and not get anything good with it, so you probably figure he doesn't have Patron in his hand at all, since that would have synergized with the bombs too.
Yep. And I suppose it's just going to be Hero Power. I don't think Wild Growth really unlocks any great plays next turn, so probably just going to save that for the cycle. Warrior, what do you think the Warrior needs to pick up here? I don't think this deck runs Grommash, really.
I think he might just play the all 3 of them, right? Maybe he plays the Acolyte instead of Frothing, but you got to do something here.
Yeah, so the frothing would be how much damage here?
Plus,
2, 4, 6, and then a whirlwind for 4, so 10 damage. So not too far off, but there's no real point in doing 10 damage against a deck with taunts and heals when it's not killing them that turn.
yeah. Yeah, so you could do the second Acolyte here, and you get a ton of card draw out of it. Would you kill the Ancient Allure? No, you wouldn't kill the Ancient Allure if you did the second Acolyte. Oh, maybe he'll just play the Acolyte and the Ghoul and save the charge, but I wouldn't mind seeing the charge here. The thing is, it's a little late now. Like, at this point, you might think, okay, I've decided that's the better play, but the rope's burning. I won't have time to see the cards that I draw and maybe do something with them, so it might not be worth it.
Yeah, definitely a problem playing the Patron deck, especially since people have talked about the rope actually kind of got shorter. Whether that happened recently or a while ago, people are now very aware of it. I think Patron's the first deck in a long time where it actually matters very frequently. And just today, actually, in the Vulcan League, Orange missed lethal with Patron due to the rope. So
Really?
very real problem.
I kind of like that. I mean, it can be frustrating to lose to the animations, but it means that like you as the player need to be planning ahead more, right? And you're rewarded where other players wouldn't be, just because you were thinking in advance and knew what your turns wanted were.
Yeah, it's an interesting way of kind of rewarding practice now, because you really do have to be very comfortable with the Patron deck to quickly sequence all of your plays. He's going to go with Loatheb and Silence on the Ghoul. Alternatively, he could have Wrathed the 1/3 Acolyte and silenced the other one to only give one draw. This way, he also only gives... Well, he gives 2 draws this way, but it's not a huge deal. And let's see here. No spell activations.
He needs some kind of, draw off the Acolytes here to really make this work, I think. He can just run the Patrons into the 2/4, but that's not very strong.
Right now, he has 8 damage with the Frothing charge. If he could pick up something like another Frothing or the other Unstable Ghoul, but I believe the other Unstable Ghoul has already been used, so he's just going to go for it, actually, and I'm not sure what he can pick up because spells are disabled this turn from Loatheb.
Combo next turn with the 2 5/5s is 21 plus 7, 28 damage.
Yeah. Oh, there's another Frothing, and VX kind of looks stressed, but I still don't think that's enough. I think he drew it 1 draw too late. Even 1 draw 2 draws too late, but...
He had 12 there.
Yeah. It's going to take him to 5, but again, that's not that relevant against the Druid deck, and with exact lethal from the combo. Oh, wow.
You have to feel like he could have killed the Loatheb with his Frothing there. Maybe he figured he wouldn't have a way to win, but...
Really wouldn't have much way to win, yeah. I think his play was fine, but... like we talked about that earlier turn, where he kind of thought about going for a play and then realized when the rope came, oh, maybe I don't even have enough time to see my draws, so he just paused. And I feel like that was a turn where if anything could have happened differently for the Warrior, that was it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then his School got silenced, right? So if he had charged it, he would have got all those extra card draws, and he could have picked up the stuff earlier to maybe set up the Death Bite. I'm not sure. It was still a tough spot for him, right? But it was possible.
Hadn't seen a Keeper yet, hadn't seen a Wrath yet, so it was pretty ambitious to just play out the Ghoul and both Acolytes and hope he got a lot of draws off of them. Didn't end up working out too well for him, and the Silence on the Ghoul for the face attack for 5 actually set up exact lethal. So it worked out quite a bit better than the Wrath Silence on the Acolyte play. But the Patron deck got really close. Had there been, a Whirlwind drawn earlier, or a second frothing. Could have just seen a big lethal push come out as VX-14 actually got 15 damage off of just the relatively small minions in the early game in that game.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't even have that great an opening, right? So to pick up, I don't know. If he had had the patron, if the warrior had had the
Yeah,
patron
the
earlier,
patron would have been huge that
he
game.
had like a 6 patron combo. And
Oh man.
It's
So this game's going to be the Demon Zoo Warlock, I would say, but there's an Argent Squire, so maybe it's not very demon based. Saw Doctor Boom as well, and it's going to be what looks to be a mid-range hunter from VX-14.
Argent Squire normally means like a really aggressive Zoo Warlock. To include that as an extra one drop.
There was a Doctor Boom in the Mulligan though, so it's kind of an interesting list off the bat.
Really surprised he didn't just play Patron again, honestly. Now, maybe he was feeling like he couldn't do it, but Patron is normally a really good matchup against Hunter, and VX is the one with the Priest, right? So then that's also a very good match. Maybe he wants to save Patron for the Anchor now, if he knows that he could take a game from these decks anyways.
Yep, pretty interesting choices. I mean, he will have to get a win with that Patron deck no matter what, so at worst he'll get an opportunity against Priest if he goes down 0-2. But goes with the Warlock for this match, and I would say, especially with kind of how slow this opener is, I would favor the Hunter, but the Argus could actually be quite good here.
Yeah, definitely. Getting the egg buffed up against a Hunter with Taunt is like one of your ways to go to win, I think.
Yeah, especially if the secret ends up being Freezing Trap. Freezing and Argus is always something you're not too sad about. But it looks like he's going to go with Knife Juggler instead. I think I'd like to see the Argus this turn and start trading into that Haunted Creeper. Not even considering Houndmaster, but when you add that as kind of an added bonus, I guess he really wants to Freezing Trap the 1-1 this turn, though. So this makes sense.
It does make sense. He has to know that that's going to be freezing, because imagine if that was like explosive or something else, and then he played all of his creatures and sacrificed the health on the egg into an explosive, so he had to be pretty confident.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting read you can kind of make is my opponent is the type of person to play a Priest deck. I think they would have the more mid-range Hunter.
True.
Like, I know a lot of people will kind of make that read against myself and against other players. Like, when I'm bringing stuff like Aggro Hunter, it's much more likely my other decks are aggro as well. So, for these control players, when they bring Hunter, you can almost expect this very mid-rangey deck with Freezing Traps. And this play, I mean, despite not being... yeah, I mean, this set up an amazing board. So, the juggles definitely went his way, I would say, by denying that Houndmaster. But the Hunter is going to have a hard time coming back. Might need something like Unleash the Hounds with that Knife Juggler.
Yeah, I think you would really hope for Unleash is kind of one of the only ways here. Harrison's going to do absolutely nothing next turn. By the time you drop the high main, you'll probably be looking at close to lethal on the very next turn.
Yeah, and now, I mean, he got the 2-target Argus, which is... can't ask for more.
With a Divine Shield, no less.
Yeah. So, I assume these are just going to hit the face with double Doomguard. Maybe he plays Void Caller, but definitely going to be a bit of a race scenario for the Warlock, and when you're sitting at 29 health, it's a race that the Hunter is not winning.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I give him a lot of credit for making that play with the Knife Juggler on the previous turn when he could have Argus. That was like a turn that set the pace of the game, and he set it in his favor, knowing exactly what he was up against.
Yep. He basically went for kind of a percentage play. He knew he'd get to freezing the Argent Squire most likely, and then he would most likely kill off the Haunted Creeper with a juggle. He had a 75% with the minion plays and the egg pop, so very smart play overall.
So do you think you just Doomguard the face next turn? You have a chance not to throw away the other Doomguard, which I think would be an auto win.
Sniping off the 1/1 kind of sucked. The Implosion top deck kind of changes things, because I would say your opponent doesn't have Unleash at this point. You take that out of his range since he didn't go for the Juggler Unleash last turn, and killing off the Juggler just really makes a lot of sense here. In fact, does this set up lethal? It does. So it's basically forcing something to happen from VX-14 this turn. And I don't think something's going to happen. In fact...
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. He can...
Yeah, short of quick-shotting the 2/1, that's going to be game.
Which would leave him alive with 1 HP left against a 29 HP opponent as a hunter. It's never a great position.
Yeah. He will stay alive, I guess, this way with 1 HP. Because he gets to trade the 1/1 into the Argus, but again, really not going to matter in the long run.
Yeah, just Doomguard. Assume that probably can't kill everything, and even if he does, just have to hit him one more time at some point.
Yeah, a Belcher would probably be the draw if you're the hunter here, and even that, not really great. So, gonna be a concede, and PP Cookie's gonna tie up the series 1-1, get the win with his Warlock out of the way, which I think is pretty important here. Priest traditionally pretty good against Warlock, and Hunter also pretty good against Warlock.
Yeah, the Priest would definitely be what you want to match up against the Warlock, so it wouldn't surprise me if VX is a little put off about that. He has to face Priest against Hunter, really, I think, to have a chance, because Patron Warrior has an absolutely insane win rate in that match. The Priest just doesn't really apply enough pressure, and then you can set up your ultimate combo that you want to win.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested to see what exactly is in the Priest deck. He said that he worked with his friend Razor on the Priest deck. Razor's had some very interesting Priest decks in the past, pretty obscure stuff. Played even Divine Spirit Interfire before. I've seen that deck on the ladder, some Deathlord shenanigans, but don't think we'll see that, probably. I think it'll be more standard. But really, could be anything. Traditionally does have a pretty mediocre win rate against Patron, but pretty good win rate against Hunters, so hopefully he can, win the luck of the draw and line it up against Hunter, but we'll have to see.
You could tell that mid-range Hunter was built to be good against Warriors with the Harrison involved, right? But mid-range Hunter is pretty much the least successful Hunter, in my opinion, against the Patron Warrior. The more aggressive version of Hunter seems to punish it a little better.
Yeah, it looks like a hybrid Hunter coming out from PP Cookie, though, with a Savannah and Arcane Golem in his opening hand. And I didn't see what deck VX chose, but...
It's the Priest.
Oh, so he did get the Priest in a Hunter matchup, so I gotta think that's going to be good for him, avoiding the Patron so far.
Yeah. So this match, this is like a classic match almost that you don't get to see quite as much when Priest has been not as popular, but the people that play Priest understand what they need to do in this match and how they need to stop their opponent's board at kind of the turn 5 mark. You're looking to clear everything away, and then you just use the kind of Priest value cards to continue running the Hunter out of stuff.
Yeah, the later it gets in the game for the Hunter, the worse you have to feel. One of the cards that really hoses them out is Shadow Madness to steal something like a Haunted Creeper or Mad Scientist. But it's a more slow hand from the Hunter, and he's thinking about whether he should coin Animal Companion or save the coin and try to curve out into some piloted Shredders. While it's a slow hand from the Hunter, it's an even slower hand from the Priest.
Yeah.
Which I actually think favors the Hunter. Ooh. The worst Animal Companion.
Never had
wow.
that on an empty board.
It's Shadowward Pain, actually. Uh, so now presented with an option. Before, I think he was just happy to draw a card, but now uh, very likely to see a Shadowward Pain come out. Oh, I'm just going to draw a card, actually. So, understands that Leok is only really 2 damage pressure at this point, which isn't a huge deal. The Animal Companion off the top is pretty good, but he's going to go with the Guaranteed Glaive so you could play. Just make sure he gets rid of this Northshire Cleric.
Yeah, he gets punished pretty hard for not using the Shadowward Pain there, because the turn, I guess he drew second Animal Companion, so he might have been able to kill it anyways, but the Cleric just refunded its own card, and he's behind on the board now.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting play. I guess he really puts a lot of faith into his AoE clears, like Light Bomb. Decides he's going to be able to stabilize later in the game, and 2 damage is fine. He is still fine on health, but like you said, he's lost the board, and now is kind of fighting to regain it.
I think the Shredders, having double Shredder is like a really strong opening in this match for the Hunter, because it's 4 attack, and then it's tough to remove for the Priest. It's just like a good chunk of damage that you don't have a great way to deal with.
Yeah. So could see something like an Owl come out this turn along with Animal Companion. You are really walking into Light Bomb with that play, as opposed to clearing off the Shredder. But when you're the aggressive deck, you do have to also weigh, can you beat that card anyway? And just if you just keep clearing the minions the Priest plays and you don't really put on too much pressure, you'll find yourself running out of damage. But I do think he could afford to Animal Companion and Hero Power this turn and just clear through the Belcher. But, okay, so he's going to go kind of a middle-of-the-road play.
Yeah, I like that play a lot, actually.
Yeah. So this doesn't overdevelop his board, and the Shredder Death Rattle protects him a little bit against an AoE clear. And he does actually get out the Light Bomb.
He's so close there to being able to Shadow Madness the Shredder and steal it. He could do the Shrink in Shadow Madness, but the Shredder wouldn't have died to any of the creatures it could attack.
Yeah, now he's going to get it this turn, though, which is pretty huge.
Yeah, that is a really good value play just to steal back from the Hunter.
Yeah, I think he really needed that to happen this turn as well. He's falling to that health total where the Hunter can just realistically burn you out. And he's not aware of PP Cookie playing Arcane Golems, but, I mean, when you find out, it's usually too late.
Okay, so let's see. I think Lotheb's the best here because we can see that he has a lot of spells, but you might just want to play the biggest creature.
Even Lotheb would just kind of die to that Bulgin.
Oh yeah, true.
Lotheb lets you weave in the Hero Power. Savannah Highmane a little weaker to Shadowward Death, but also the obviously most powerful minion in his hand. And I don't think there's any world in which we'll see Animal Companion or Arcane Golem here.
Yeah, you want to save those till later. You want to get like the static creature down first, and then you use the charges, which are going to be always effective when it's ready to kill him.
Yeah, I actually wonder if there's any merit to just Holy Fire here. But with this play, you do get to kind of... Well, I guess you can play the Shrink Meister with Holy Fire as well. This play, he gets to get in the Hero Power, and he's still at a pretty comfortable life total.
This is a tough spot. I mean, you got the Priest at 17, but you don't really have much finishing power. You're hoping that the Animal Companion gives you, like, a Huffer or Misha, I guess, actually.
I think Misha's actually really good here, yeah. In combination with the Lotheb, your opponent would have a really tough time getting through it.
Yeah. And the verdict is secondly up.
Ouch. Well, this enables the Unleash, so there's that. Yeah, guess he just changed his play based on the Animal Companion that came out. And he just goes for the double trade.
That actually worked out pretty well for him. I mean, normally Leok is the one that you think, oh man, it's going to get Caballed, and then he gets the creature. But in this case, there was no Cabal, and he just used the same thing to kill that would have killed every other animal. But he doesn't get to keep his creatures alive because the Unleash was more powerful.
Yeah, the things aren't going too badly for the Hunter as far as, you know, he is clearing the priest threats, but he's not getting too much pressure going, and if he trades here, yeah, I mean, he's basically trading in damage to save slightly more damage, which probably just isn't going to work out. I mean, the Death Lord could fetch him something like a Savannah Highmane, which would be pretty huge.
This worked out really well for VX. I mean, that turn was still looking pretty questionable where he could Vol'jin, but he had no way to kill the creatures, and he would just take 8 damage. For picking up the Death Lord, it kills every creature that he can play, and he's just going to get to defend for this turn and probably probably Light Bomb next turn.
Yeah, the Light Bomb I actually think could just lock it up next turn. He's going to fall really low, and the Deathlord activation could bring out something really threatening, but no matter what it brings out, the Light Bomb should be able to clear the entire board.
You think that's right to trade the Juggler and not the Arcane Golem? You get the 1 extra face damage, but you lose the Juggle threat for later.
Yeah, I like the 1 extra damage here. You're really looking to burn out your opponent. Can't rely on Juggles with an empty hand, I think.
Wow, VX with the second Deathlord. I mean, that just curves with the Light Bomb. It's like every single one of his cards has been beautiful except the Mind Control this game.
Yeah, really all you have to worry about after that is Quick Shot into Kill Command.
Yeah, Quick Shot
put up
something.
The taunt. He does have the option of Mind Controlling Arcane Golem to clear. But that doesn't leave you with a taunt on the board. So I think it's pretty much just less efficient overall. He might just heal, though. This plays better around a weapon top deck. Oh, and he does top deck a weapon, so works out really well for VX here. And now PP Cookie really has to draw out a lot of burn to win the game.
This is never a great position as the Priest, though, because you know you just keep up with the hero power from the Hunter, and it's going to take you a while to kill him. So
he
you
does
think,
not have much pressure.
Eventually, maybe the Hunter gets some damage, and I'm only staying at 6 health each turn. Oh, 8 health.
Yeah, I think you have to play. Yeah, Leopardome you definitely play. I was thinking if he were to draw something like Savannah Highmane, there might even be merit to not playing it. You know it's not... Oh, wow.
You see VX scratch his head there like, yep, that was a good play. I'm going to take that. Helps out quite a bit.
Jeez.
So I would love to see like some other healing from VX. Priests take a lot of face damage, and normally you need to pack in more than just like a single Holy Fire. So maybe second Holy Fire or a heal bot I hope for.
Could see like Light of the Naru, but I don't think this deck is actually running Akanai Soul Priest, so I guess that's not in there. And, oh, yeah. So the Leopardome was actually really important because now, especially with that Kill Command draw, PP Cookie's on a Beast draw to win the game unless there's more healing to come out for VX here.
A Beast draw or any other spell like second kill. He played one Kill Command, so it's a Quick Shot, I guess.
Yeah, Quick Shot or Beast to win the game, and so I think PP's probably a slight underdog here.
And but he gets it.
Oh, that doesn't count. That doesn't do it.
Oh, no. He's 1 mana and 1 damage off.
Wow.
Well.
That.
Can
so now you have to, you have to make a bad play, but he's just going to concede.
Yeah.
And VX narrowly avoids defeat.
I mean, it was good to see the priest win, but you have to feel a little bad for Pibby Cookie. He played that really well, and then it just came down to like a
Yeah,
single point of damage or a single point of mana would have won him the
it
game in
was
either direction.
it's pretty interesting. He actually held back on the Glaive Zuka the first turn, but then played it the next turn and got Harrison off the top. So
Yeah.
you could tell he was aware of the possibility, and then he decided, he won't have Harrison, and then he top decked it. So
Okay.
little unlucky, but
Did we see BX's Hunter? He played the mid-range Hunter too, right?
yeah, he has we saw Freezing Trap, Houndmaster, just pretty general mid-rangey cards. Didn't see any one-drops, but it looks like he has Web Spinners. So I'm not as familiar with this version against Patron. That's a really good hand for the Patron, I know that much, but what do you think about this exact kind of matchup and how the different archetypes match up?
Okay, so, well, I play a slightly different patron list without the unstable ghouls, and I use shield block, but I find that the patron does really well in this match. You just have to, like, defend, and then once you can get 3 to 4 patrons on the board, there's no way the hunter can clear them efficiently, and basically they just try to punish you with Unleash the Hounds and go face and hope that they can kill you in time, which most of the time doesn't work, because you have armor smiths and things to get you a lot of health back in a tough situation. I think the Unstable Ghoul might even make it a little better for the warrior here, being able to like stall an attack some turn. But then the mid-range hunter doesn't play a lot of small creatures, so it might not kill anything.
Yeah, the warrior definitely has a really nice hand to defend here, but the double battle rage not the greatest draw. Even if it's enabled, it's not really what you want against Hunter,
Yeah.
because you're basically just spending some of your mana to cycle to get to the actual good cards. And I think it's actually interesting here. He goes for Animal Companion over Mukla. I feel like Mukla doesn't really get much better than just on turn 3,
Yep.
but we'll see. It's obviously going to have to come out later in this game then.
Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, maybe he was looking for a Huffer to just try to guarantee. But like Misha is pretty much the best animal he could have got, and Mukla is
Yeah.
still superior to that.
Yep. So, like, because the one thing I'm thinking of is he's probably aware that Slam or Execute clears it, but Slam or Execute also clears, any of the animal companions. And he's going to curve out with Shredder, Lothab, and Mukla really kind of gets worse the later in the game you go, because you can't assure that your opponent will have an empty board.
Yeah, and the banana. So Mukla is kind of an unusual creature. Basically, it's a 5/5 for 3 mana, which is way above the normal stat value, but it's giving your opponent 2 mana worth of value in their hand to spend later. But it does mean that it's much faster than what your opponent's doing, because until you get that mana to actually use the bananas that you wouldn't have otherwise played something else, it's not really gaining you anything, and the opponent got a 5/5 creature. So
Yeah. One thing that's kind of interesting to note is Mukla is also not in his deck. He got it from Web Spinner. And so it can kind of come back to, if you haven't played with King Mukla a lot, he's kind of in the aggro paladin, in the old aggro rogue decks, but really not in hunter decks. And VX has looked like much more of a control player with the priest deck. So maybe it's just not as familiar with how to play with King Mukla. Really just got to throw him out there as early as possible and try and get him for 5.
here you go. So I think this is fine for the warrior. You can just trade and hit with a Death Bite and try to set up Patron. You're looking for one good draw here, either a Whirlwind or an Inner Rage, and suddenly you have a game-winning position.
Yeah. Really, the warrior can get pretty low in this matchup. It's not the aggro hunter. It's the much more slow version. The Savannah off the top's crippling, though.
Yeah, he didn't get any good draw here. You might just Patron with 2 patrons, because you know you're going to start taking a lot. But like Emperor would have been perfect right now. Drop Emperor, he has to be killed somehow, and it would enable you to do charge combo, which would kill the hyenas that spawn from the high main and give you more.
Oof. This
What?
feels bad.
I guess get a battle rage off of it.
Oh,
Which is,
ouch.
oh man.
Yeah, I wonder what the plan is really. Like, what cards do you want to even see here? Taking at least 5 next turn, or at least 4, I suppose. As the Warsong Commander is very likely to be removed. And,
Yeah.
well, Mukla's not bad here.
I think the Muckla bananas start to become pretty relevant later with the patrons being able to like save a patron
Yeah.
from death, but just he's at
Well,
13, so max base
yeah.
damage.
You'd be more scared if your opponent had something like an Emperor to give them a lot more mana flexibility. But knowing that none of the cards have been reduced in mana really just lets you feel free to Mukla here.
I mean, I don't think Freezing Trap's a bad choice here either. He gets to curve with the Web Spinner, and then he knows that there's another Warsong Commander. There's no way you would play
Yeah.
a naked Warsong without a second one in your hand.
Well, he is 1 turn off of the patron combo. I think if we were going into turn 8, we'd be a lot more likely to see the Freezing Trap. But playing the Mukla really just sets up the lethal push. And PB Cookie actually doesn't have a way to deal with that.
He could slam
He's
the
going
hyena.
for Doomsayer, I think. Yeah. At least that's what it looked like.
He's dead
Yeah.
now unless he draws Execute.
I think he's just dead no matter what, right?
Is he? Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. So that's going to actually do it. VX14 going to pick up the series 3-1, move on to the finals. 1 match off joining us for the feature tournament later in July, I believe. So, pretty dominant performance from him, really. Didn't have much trouble winning with any of his decks. Dropped 1 game to Zoo. Kind of just got zooed. But none of the decks really looked that bad. Brought some interesting decks and was able to beat the more standard lineup.
So, of course, if you guys go to geico.on.gg, which you can see the link there down at the bottom of the screen, you can register. There is the EU Open tomorrow as well, but if you register on the GEICO site, you have a chance to win an official PC. It's a really good computer, and then also it supports esports just by doing that. Even just like signing up and then just for the PC and not really doing anything with it, it shows that it gets interest in the company, and that's what GEICO likes to see so that they sponsor future tournaments. So it's a really easy way to help out.
Yeah, big shout out to them. This is actually, it's a circuit of 16 completely open tournaments. So for you viewers at home, basically you can join these tournaments just like these players can, and maybe you could even be here. But for now, we're going to take a 2-minute break before we bring you the second semifinal and see who will join VX14 in the final.